So, for World Book Day today, I'm going to be reading 101 Dalmatians by Dodie Smith. This is a book all about a group of Dalmatian puppies who get into a bit of trouble. It's got some really lovely characters in it, some very funny characters in fact, and I think it's got really lovely drawings, so this is why I really like this book. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. So, let's begin.
Once there were two Dalmatians named Pongo and Mrs. They lived with Mr. and Mrs. Dearly in a big house in London. "Dear Pongo," said Mrs. one day, "we're going to have puppies." But Mrs. didn't have just one puppy, or two, or three. She had 15. The biggest puppy was Patch. He looked after Tiny Cadpig, the smallest puppy of all. Lucky was the bravest, and Roly-Poly made everyone laugh. One afternoon a woman came to the house. Her name was Cruella de Vil. "What delightful dogs!" declared Cruella. "I will buy them all."
"We'll never sell them,"
said Mr. Dearly firmly. "Pity," muttered Cruella as she left. "They would have made an enchanting fur coat." Pongo growled.
"I don't like Cruella de Vil,"
he said. "Nor do I," said Mrs. "She's enough to frighten the spots off a pup." Not long afterwards Pongo and Mrs. went for a walk, but when they returned they had a nasty shock. Where were the puppies?
"Perhaps they're hiding,"
said Pongo, but they were nowhere in the house. "My poor pups have been stolen," wailed Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. Dearly called the police. They put adverts in the newspapers, but it was no use. The puppies had vanished. That evening Pongo and Mrs. sat on a nearby hill and barked.
"Help!"
they cried.
15 Dalmatian puppies stolen!
Many dogs heard them, but no one had seen the puppies. But then, from far away, they heard an old sheepdog.
"I've seen your puppies.
He barked gruffly.
They're at a house called Hell Hall."
"We must go there and rescue them," said Mrs.
"You're right.
said Pongo.
We'll leave tonight."
When the Dearlys were asleep, Pongo and Mrs. slipped silently from the house. They ran through the freezing streets and out into the countryside, and on they went through sleeping villages and frosty fields. At last they reached Hell Hall. The old sheepdog greeted them warmly. His name was the Colonel. "What a frightening house," said Mrs.
"It belongs to a woman named Cruella de Vil,"
said the Colonel.
"Knew it.
Said Pongo.
Cruella stole our puppies."
But the house was surrounded by a high wall. How would the dogs get in? The Colonel knew a way in. He led Pongo and Mrs. into the old tower. When they reached the top, Mrs. peered out and gasped. She could see her puppies and dozens more.
"Cruella has been collecting Dalmatian puppies,"
said the Colonel.
"She wants to make them into spotty fur coats."
"Then we must save them all," said Mrs. Two men came out of the house.
"That's Sol and Jasper,"
said the Colonel.
"They are guarding the pups for Cruella, but they spend most of their time watching television."
That evening Pongo and Mrs. crept up into the house. "There's Lucky!" cried Mrs. "Mum! Dad!" exclaimed Lucky. "We knew you'd rescue us." "Come on, I'll take you to the others. If we're quiet, Saul and Jasper won't notice a thing." Suddenly they heard a voice outside the door. "Saul! Jasper, where are you?" Pongo and Mrs. froze. They had heard that voice before. It was Cruella de Vil. "The whole country is looking for those pups," snarled Cruella. "I want you to make them into spotty fur coats tonight." She slammed the door and went upstairs.
"It'll take ages to round up all these pups,"
grumbled Jasper.
"Let's watch some more TV first."
"Now's our chance to escape,"
whispered Pongo as he and Mrs. silently led the pups through the kitchen window. On the way they ate everything in sight.
"Cruella won't have any breakfast,"
laughed Pongo. "Serves her right," said Mrs. Soon the Dalmatians were out of the tower and on the other side of the wall.
"Cruella is sure to come after you,"
said the Colonel.
"You must leave at once."
"It's a long way home," frowned Mrs. "The puppies are too small to walk all that way, especially Cadpig."
"Don't worry,"
smiled the old sheepdog.
"Cadpig can ride in this toy cart." "Good idea,"
said Pongo. "Thanks for your help," said Mrs.
"My pleasure,"
said the Colonel.
"Goodbye, and good luck."
The Dalmatians raced bravely through the night, but it wasn't long before the puppies grew cold and exhausted, and then it started to snow.
"We'll never make it to London,"
sighed Pongo.
"Toot toot!"
"That's Cruella's car!" cried Mrs. "It's coming this way!" Cruella was getting closer, but there was nowhere to hide. Then Mrs. spotted a big van parked nearby, and sitting in the back of the van was a little terrier.
"Help!"
barked Pongo.
"We're being chased."
"You're the missing Dalmatians," said the terrier. "Quick, jump in!" The Dalmatians scrambled to the van just in time. Cruella zoomed past them. "Look!" cried Mrs. "She's skidding!" Crash! Cruella's car skid off the road into a ditch. "Right," chuckled the terrier. "My driver's heading to London. Need a lift?"
Yes, please,
said Pongo and Mrs. It was snowing heavily outside when Mr. and Mrs. Dearly heard barking. They dashed to the door and in ran dozens of Dalmatians.
It's Pongo and Mrs. and their puppies,
cried Mr. Dearly. "And many more puppies besides," said Mrs. Dearly, and they started to count them all. As the Dearlys finished counting, the clock struck midnight. "It's Christmas Day," said Mrs. Dearly. "Well done, Pongo and Mrs. We've got the best Christmas present ever. 101 Dalmatians." The end.
Hope you've enjoyed this story and have a wonderful World Book Day.